there, good evening. Welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast. As always, I'm Steve O'Matt. It's a pleasure to welcome you back here on the channel for another show, and unfortunately it's more of a post-mortem, I guess, than anything else. So we'll try and be upbeat, we'll try and be a wee bit positive, but just strap yourself in. No going to lie to you, because there isn't too much positivity around the place at this moment in time. We'll be addressing the game and, more importantly, the big fat elephant in the room, which is where do we go from here? And the pressure is definitely mounting on Wilfried Nancys. 3 games into his tenure, or otherwise it doesn't quite matter, because the results haven't been there. The performances he's telling us haven't quite been there. And maybe yesterday was a straw that snapped the camel's back. So, as you can see, it's a full screen here. And like Celtic, we realised that we had to get strength and depth, and we went into the transfer market early. And that's why not only have we got my bearded brother on there, down below we have a good friend of my good self here, and it is another Stephen. It is good to have a Stephen on board. And there's a recurring theme, and you don't need to be bald and you don't need to have a beard to be in Celtic World Order, but it does help. Maybe it's a wee bit of nepotism. So I've got Paddy Boy and introducing Stephen. We'll start with yourself, mate, as the new boy on the block, or the new man on the block. How you doing, Stephen? How you feeling after that game at the weekend?
Being honest, I'm going to try and do my talk here without the need for a bleep button. There's many naughty words that I could use. I'm going to try and stay away from that. I feel generally, if there weren't other tragic events happening in the world, I really would be sitting here with my black tie on, because I'm struggling at the moment to get my head around how, as a club, we've got to where we are at this point in time. It's not that many months ago that we were going toe-to-toe with Bayern Munich. We then went on, obviously we won the league last year. The loss in the Scottish Cup final should have been the slap in the face that should have propelled us in a different direction. I'm sure you guys have discussed the lack of transfer activity during the summer, the clown show that was Brendan Rodgers' last few months and the job. But we now, after the AGM, really explosive stuff there. But we've now into just, it's like George R.R. Martin stuff here. This is like really into fantasy land here.
Absolutely.
If you were to try and write a script for this, the path we are on at the moment, you would be absolutely nowhere near it. You would just be like, no, this is Celtic, and these things don't happen to us as a club, or certainly in such a compressed times. Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously a bit older than you guys, and I remember, watching Celtic in the 80s and 90s under the old board, and you kind of think, that really, St Fergus came in and moved us away from that, and we just seem to be getting dragged back towards this, this black hole that, we just, you're waiting for the next big, the big calamity to hit us, and I don't see, anything positive in the last few weeks that I could even try and, be a bit humorous about.
Well, we'll try and find something, and that's I'm sure you speak for pretty much always there. It's sometimes it's actually hard to put into words just how you're feeling. And I'm sure, Paddy, you're a man that's never stuck for words yourself, but we had a wee back and forward after that, and it's needless to say you weren't exactly a happy man. You went in early on Wilfried. We'll get on to that, Paddy. You might not maybe want to say I told you so, but are you sitting here and feeling that you're being vindicated, that gut reaction, if you want to call it that, for early performances is maybe just justified, and you can't see it going any other way than it has so far?
I'd love to sit here, Steve, and say I'm quite smug because I was right, but I'm not. I'm gutted. I want the guy to do well, obviously, but having the audacity to come in the Hearts game and play free, and play players out of position, and play people in positions that they'd never played before for our club, and basically use his arrogance as his mantra going forward, for me, just wasn't right. The Roma game, like we say, Steve, the Roma game was a free hit. That for me was just a game of nothing. It was a game where he could maybe trial a few different things, but when you listen to Evan Ferguson's interview, Evan came out and he said, we were told to just watch for the players that didn't really know what they were doing. And to be honest, there was a lot of them.
Exactly.
Sitting watching that interview, mate, I was like, wow, coming from an opposition player to be saying that, we were just highlighting the guys that didn't really have a clue what they were doing. And that just shows you the state that we're in at the minute. But be over all of that. We thought, right, in the cup, it's a cup final at Hampden, our stomping ground. We've dominated there over the last 20 years. Let's go there. Let's lift the first trophy of the season, get that out there, and then we can kind of push on for there. And when the team sheet got released, Steve, I looked at it and I thought, brilliant. 4-3-3. Excellent. 4 defenders in there. Tierney, Ralston, Scales and Trusty. He's listened to us. But no. Back to the arrogance, back to the, I don't know whether it's arrogance or confidence or whatever it is. It's a mess. That's exactly what it is. It's, for me, mate, like I said, I can sit here and be smug because I called it after the first game, but I just think that the guy doesn't have what it takes. I really, really don't. I don't think he understands the pressure of a club like Celtic. We said before, when you come to a club like Celtic, you need to be able to handle the pressure of having to win every single week. And he came out after the Hearts game and said it's all about the performance. It's all about...
Yes, and continues to do so.
Well, I mean, it's not about the performance. It's about winning. It's about getting results. Under Mark O'Neill, we didn't have the best performances, but we got results. We got players running the extra 5 yards. We got players giving the extra 10% that was needed to get the games over the line. Wilfried Nancys has been in about a week and a half, and it already looks like he's lost the dressing room. After the Hearts game, he went straight up the tunnel. He didn't come over to the crowd. He didn't address it. Mate, I'm done with the guy already.
Well, listen, we'll get on about it. I can see there's a lot filtering in. There's nearly about 130s now filtering in on YouTube alone. So I know we're out in X as well. Get your comments up. We'll do our best to sort of get through this wee bit of group therapy. But no, look, we'll be honest and we'll be realistic as we always are. We'll be objectives as well. But we can't always be positive, and it's certainly going to be that way. Before we do it, I always do it at the start. We're 8 minutes in. You know it by now. Support the channel. Hit the subscribe. Cost you nothing. Absolutely free. If you want, you can. Members, redonation channel, blah, 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 blah. You know all that stuff. All the other links are down below. Don't want to get down that. We just always say that, but don't feel it. Today's not a time to be sort of labouring that. We've got more bigger things to talk about than Celtic World Order as a podcast pushing on. We know that you're here. You're always here. To quote a famous man that once said something similar about a team and supporting it. You support us and we're here for you. So anyway, guys, look, we need to get on about it. And what I will say is looking at some of the comments and the flavour of it. Now, I just want to jump off at this point. I asked you, Paddy, are you feeling vindicated? Are you sort of feeling like, I told you so, and so on and so forth, right? And I get it, and that's fine. And I see there is obviously folk that are in there in the crowd as well saying the exact same thing. Told you, warned you, always knew it was going to be a disaster. However, what I will say is that's everybody is perfectly entitled to their opinion. I'm not going to say I'm right, you're wrong, and vice versa. But I still made agreement off, you need to pump the brakes a wee bit, because we were judging a guy after 90 minutes, right? Bring it back. That is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous stuff. Reactionary beyond belief. Unfair. Second game, Roma. Performances weren't any better. But again, there was more judging going out there. And again, you could slightly justify that. Again, you could understand the feeling. Cup final, I said, was non-negotiable. Now, this is where I'm at with the whole situation. I said, and I stand by it because it is the right thing to do. And the way that things go, it's the way it should be done. A guy should be given time. A guy should be judged on a body of games, a number of games, a good run of games, and ideally after getting a transfer window. However, and this is, in fairness to myself, this is not me flipping flopping, I said, losing the cup final is non-negotiable. However, if you lost the cup final in such a fashion where you had loads of chances, you were knocking on the door, it looked as if they stole one, then yes, again, maintain what I'm saying. The performances might improve, give the guy a chance. But I'm not foolish and I'm not stupid. And I now sit here and I say, look, as much as it is the right thing to give people time, Celtic are so fragile right now. We're so precarious. Time is not something that we have, and it's not something that he has. It's not something this board has. And that changes the circumstances. Yesterday's capitulation, whatever you want to call it, showed a weakness that doesn't look like it's improving. And then we need to recalibrate how we look at things. So I'm saying, yes, in the ideal world, they should be given time. But now my thinking is, how far do you give them? That's where I'm at now. That's where I'm at now with this one, guys. How far do you give them? Because look at the fixtures that we've got coming up, right? Dundee United away during the week. That looks, despite their form, that looks like a mountain. Then you've got Aberdeen, you've got Livingston, you've got Motherwell, and then you've got Rangers. Now, see if those fixtures were Livingston and Falkirk and Auchinleck, for example, and all at home, you might go, right, okay, I feel a wee bit confident there. However, looking at that run of fixtures between now and the Rangers game, I don't see any chance. I would probably hazard a guess that I imagine Celtic probably win one of those with losses in there or a loss in there and some draws. That's where I'm at. So just driving straight in, Stephen, how long can we go on? I'm all for giving time, but realistically, how far would be too far for this to continue?
Yeah, you said it yourself. It's a results-driven business. When you are the team who, over the last 20 years, has been the driving force in Scottish football in terms of league championships won and cups won, there's no reason that should change unless we've seen what we've seen. As I said, you couldn't write the script. During the summer, there's obviously the big fallout with Brendan. And I watched the games when players were playing under Brendan these last few months. I'm watching their body language. And the body language told me that there was players out on that park that didn't want to be there. Never mind, talk about quality or this, that, the next thing. They just looked as if they had no confidence. They didn't really want to buy into the kind of tactics that Brendan was utilising at that time. As one of the I think it was Paddy that said, Martin came in, steadied the ship. Why? He wasn't able to bring in any new players. So how did he get the performance out of the same that Brendan had?
Exactly.
Probably a slight tweak in terms of formation, maybe, but it was more man management, more look, this is what it means to play for Celtic. This is what it means to be winners. James Forrest, although he wasn't playing, he's in there talking to the younger guys in the squad or the the newer guys in the squad and saying, yeah, this is what it means. This is what you need to put in. We get to the Wilfried, and again, we're now seeing we're sliding back. Yesterday's performance, again, talking about the body language, I generally watched probably 9 out of the 10 outfield players just run about a park. Yep. That was it. Definitely. Run about a park. These are professional football players, and it's like headless chickens. We were so all over the place, particularly for the 2 St Mirren goals in the second half. It's 10v10. You stay with a man. You go with that man where he goes. Whoever is closest to the ball, you close the ball down and you stop the distribution going elsewhere. When we're in possession, it's the other way. You try and get yourself into a bit of space and make something happen. That didn't, other than Rio's run for the goal, Fair
Nothing.
play. It was a great ball in. He made that run. Nobody else was moving for it. He made that run, got on the end of it, and put it away. But even when we got to one each, I was sitting at home watching it on TV, and I would not have put any money on us then using that momentum and going on and winning the game. I just felt that we were still
it
all
was
over the place.
It was eerie. I was at the game myself, my mate, and I bereft of absolute anything that resembled quality, purpose. We'll talk at some point about some of the things, but you mentioned something there, Stephen, and I sort of been through this in my head, and I want to bring this on to yourself, Paddy. So it's the idea that the rumours go out. We all heard the old, WhatsApp CSC. I've heard for somebody's pal that knows a pal of the cleaner at Lennoxtown that this has happened, right? Blah, 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 blah. And the general rumours that were swirling around was saying that players were disillusioned. They weren't buying into what he was selling. Sort of, felt as if this guy's a wee bit, dare I say it, out there, bit off his nut. What's he trying to do here? And we all rubbished it. Now, in case you haven't seen it, and I want to use this as a reference point for what it's worth, everybody's favourite Celtic lackey in the journalism world of a Mr. Stephen McGowan put out for the Herald a very, very interesting, almost peeling back the curtain type article, which is very much out of the realms of what he normally does, because we know he's a bit of a Celtic mouthpiece. If there's a wee bit of information, i.e. a potential signing, maybe a manager, the feelers get put out, information's trickled and has been over the years to him, and he'll put out a piece, usually fairly positive, to gauge the temperature of the fan base. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but go and check it out. But on that, Paddy, he turned round and he says, and I will actually quote the bit here where it talks about these sort of rumours. And it says that WhatsApp messages start circulating social media is a sign of a club in trouble. While these things are generally nonsense, credible sources speak of unease among players unimpressed by the new regime and the training. Now, he also goes on to say within this article that essentially, to paraphrase, that the results are unacceptable, that the manager should be getting his P45, but not only that, that Nicholson and Tisdale, as the two key players in identifying and securing them, should also be going as well. He talks about the results, he talks about the disjointed play, playing guys out of formation, i.e. Ralston at the right of a back three and all this kind of stuff. But then at the end, he talks about the big mustachio man who's all power and all control and all decisions and answers to nobody other than himself, and essentially says he's got a big decision to make, which is either empty him early and realise I've made a mistake, made an arse of this, try and recover it, or double down and suffer the consequences. Now, Paddy, see, based on that, firstly, what's your thoughts on what's the purpose of, I know misery will get you clicks and get you views and it'll get you, subscribers and all that kind of stuff, particularly for the likes of the Herald, where it's read this article, subscribe for £1. I get it. But it's no the kind of thing that guy normally puts out. So in my opinion, if history's shown us anything, somebody somewhere in that club has been giving him the info and saying run with that. What is the intention, if any, of such a piece, mate?
For me on that, Steve, like you said, he's a credible source. He's one of these guys, you called it there, he gets drip-fed information. So he's one of the guys who, when something gets leaked by him, you pay attention to it. He's a kind of Fabrizio Romano of the transfer world. He's a kind of go-to guy for Celtic. And
a Celtic whisperer, isn't it?
Aye, basically he's a Celtic whisperer, mate. So when we see stuff like this coming in, my opinion looking at it is there's no smoke without fire. There must be something going on. There must be something that's been fed out there. He spoke about the thing about the Luke McCowan being pulled in. It was at McCowan, Tenecki and Yang apparently pulled into the manager's office and told
that is the rumour.
Inverted wing backs, and they were going to be transformed going forward, and basically there was discussion saying, listen, that's not what we want to do going forward, and it was kind of blown out of proportion. The other one was obviously Woods getting told that he didn't have a place at the squad and stuff like that. We didn't need a goalkeeper coach, and other things, and then Callum losing the rag, and there's been stuff everywhere. But obviously, when we see things like this start to come out, like you say, from a credible source that's been spot on in the past, then we start to look at it a wee bit different. And like it's nothing like we've seen before, because he's normally very, very
the fact he's saying that folk in the boardroom should be sacked is mental, I thought.
Yeah, that seems a bit crazy for me. And is that him showing his true colours? Is that him now coming out and going, well, wait a minute, I'm going to put out something of mine now, and kind of get in there, because listen, he'll get the backing from it. He really, really will. And I just think that something needs to change in there, Steve. Something really does need to change. We're calling for change at the board, and I still think that should happen, but we've got more important things that we need done right now, and that's what's happening on this pitch, mate. Because like you say, we've got Dundee United Wednesday, and I'm not confident about that.
Oh,
there's a United fan on here, mate, and he pulled me aside the other day, and he was like, what do you think for Wednesday night, Paddy? You think he'll scud us? And I was like, no, mate. And he's like, oh, he'll beat us, come on. I says, mate, I am not confident. Do you know what I mean? And he just kind of laughed and swaned away. But normally going into a game like that, mate, I would be all over it. I'd be like, aye. You know what I mean? 3 or 4, mate, no bother. 4-0. My usual 4-0. I'm going to these games going, wait a minute.
I'm trying, Paddy, I'm trying to make sense of things, right? And I was listening to our good friend Terry the other night there, and he made I'm not necessarily a defence, but he put something out there that I thought was quite factual, and obviously bear this in mind yourself as well, Stephen, because I want to know your thoughts on it. That thing about the talking about there's already been rumours from credible sources of there being divides and players aren't buying into it, right? You said arrogance, you know, you've suggested that as well, Stephen, that it's perhaps coming in, just saying, no, this is how I'm doing it. We heard from Martin O'Neill that they had a, quote, 10 to 15 minute conversation. So it was pretty clear that whatever information that could have been passed or rendered or taken out for gleaned through Martin O'Neill, he wasn't really interested. It was probably lip service.
Conversation, by the way, it was 15 minutes, but 12 minutes of it nonsense. He spoke about himself. That's kind of what I get for that.
So again, if that is the case, I think that's incredibly short-sighted. But sorry, I'm digressing away. This idea about the split. Now, Terry turned round and says he's no asking professional footballers to reinvent the wheel. He's not asking them to do open heart surgery. He's not asking them to fly a Boeing 747. He's asking them to play football, which they're paid to do, and relatively within what should be within their ability. It's not like 3 at the back is, can he do that? You know, it's like turning around and saying to Trusty, right, here's what's going to happen, big man. You're going to be still a left-footed player playing the right, but seeing steady to the side of you, there's not going to be a guy there, right? You're just going to be that. Liam, you're going to be at the centre of it. So nothing's really going to change for you. The only difference is when the defence moves, there's only going to be 3 E's there instead of 4. And Kieran, you've played at a back 3, mate. Left-footed on your on your left side. Nothing's really changing here for you. You're always going to be the furthest left, so it's kind of natural for you. So he isn't asking professional footballers to do anything that's wacky or that should be beyond them, right? So partly we can see the system doesn't work, right? We can see it's not working, but I can't feel that that's the sole reason for these performances. So this idea of unrest, I don't know if you prescribe to this, Stephen. I think that something behind the scenes has happened. And it could be something I'm not saying this is the case. I'm just using it as an example. Like when Dyla came in and it was, see all that food you like to eat, boys, that's in the bin. You're not doing that anymore. You're going to be doing this, right? Or it could be, I don't know, at Lennoxtown, you normally do your training and then you get an hour and a half to chill. You're not doing that anymore. You're going to be coming in, you're going to be watching videos of the other teams. I don't know, whatever. Something behind the scenes, something's been ruffled beyond him coming in and just saying, this is how I want to play and impressing that on them. I think there's been some sort of changing to the structure and the harmony, and they're suggesting, I hate to use the term down tools, but maybe they've just went, excuse my language, fuck this guy. Who's he? What's he all about? And something as simple as that, as we have seen with the likes of Ronnie Dyla, it can completely deharmonise a dressing room. Do you think it's something, Stephen, behind the scenes, Or is the problems simply just with the system? Because I can't, for the life of me, believe that professional footballers suddenly just can't get their head around the system.
Right.
It's got to be more than that.
And in life in general, I am very much, there are two sides to every story. Right. Before I go on to my point, I'm going to ask you a quick question. Seeing the 3 games that we've watched Wilfried's team play, how many misplaced 10-yard passes have we seen compared to when Martin was in charge of the team?
Oh, it's been crazy, mate. I couldn't even count them.
In terms of numbers, huge increase, yeah. As you say, these are professional football players. If you can't pass a ball 10 yards to a teammate, there's something wrong there. Yeah, as I say, the two sides to every story. So before he was brought in, I thought it was the wrong time to bring him in because you've got injuries to 3, possibly 4 of your starting 11. You've got AJ out. You've got Cameron for the rest of the season. You've got Jota out. You had Iheanacho, who probably is the best striker we've got, although, the best of a bad lot there. But, the hammies and stuff like that. So I'm looking and saying he's coming in and he's already 4 players down from, a starting 11. But as you say, he's come in with the idea of this is how I want to play, and it's how he conveys that to the playing staff and the coaching staff. We got rid of everybody that was involved under Martin, with the exception of Gavin Strachan. If I had to pick anybody that was there to remain, to say he's going to be your link to what was in place before, Gavin Strachan would not have been the guy I would have chosen to stay there and say, if you have any questions about getting to know Celtic and the team and the pressures and everything here, he's not that man. So yes, so as I say, he's come in with his own ideas. Ange came in with his own ideas, wanted to play Ange ball, but at least he came in at the start of a season, was able to bring in some players to fit in with his philosophy, and then he moved on. So, I'm going to try and be devil's advocate here and say there's more than just, one side to this.
Paddy, I mean, have you any other thoughts on it? As we said, I hate to be that guy. It can't be just a formation. Come on. I mean, don't get me wrong. As Stephen's saying, as you've said, as the commenters are all saying, when you look at them, they don't look like they've got a clue. Ferguson himself said that. It was clear they didn't know what they were doing. We talk about these misplaced passes. It's tedious. It's brutal to watch. But again, they are professional footballers. Moving to 3 at the back doesn't make you suddenly incapable of finding the guy that's a couple of yards away for you, or making the run, or overlapping, or showing a bit of energy, or showing a bit of passion. I mean, I genuinely do think that there's something it's behind the scenes. And that then comes into the problem. People are asking, and I'll ask you, how far do we let this go? And again, that sounds dramatic for me because I've been the one calling for Cam. But as I said, I've also got to be honest, and I've got to be, objective, and I've got to look at it as the facts present. Yes, everybody should be getting time, but he doesn't have it. And it changes the goalposts. As we said, look at the fixtures there. I can't see Celtic seeing that out to after playing Rangers without having dropped points. The question is, how many points can you afford to drop? We come back and talk about the COVID season, the dreaded COVID season. That was repairable. But we kept going, just that. We'll try again. Held out. The gap get bigger. We can't afford that.
As the manager of the Celtic, Steve, we've said it before, you're not going to get that time. Everybody's saying the guy needs time. There's a lot of people obviously agreeing with what I said and just get him out now. I think that the formation thing, when you touched on that, Steve, there's players playing positions that they wouldn't normally be in. And you can see it, they just look lost in there. There is a thing, so much thing as an overcoaching. And we spoke about this before. Brendan Rodgers was guilty of overcoaching. And we've seen that in previous games and stuff. When Martin O'Neill came in, Martin O'Neill simplified it. And obviously we've spoke to guys like Dillier Gat, John Hartson. They spoke about his style of coaching. And it's basically man management. It's basically boosting the ego of the player, telling them that he has faith in them and knows what they can do, and they know what they can do and they know their jobs. Basically make them understand their job. Don't overcomplicate it with coaching and pulling out the tactics board and telling people to go do this and be here and do this and do that. And that for me is a wee bit too much, mate. Mm-hmm. It's not what we need at this minute. We need to be getting results and we need to be getting games across the line. These players need a manager who's going to boost them, not boost his own ego. And for me, for what I've seen so far from Wilfried Nancys, it seems so egotistical, so, dare I say it, French. It just seems that way inclined, mate. Like he's so up his own.
Well, as we've said before, in football there has been many strong French characters who arrogance is the only term that you could use for them. It is cliche, but it has been known to be, particularly in French football, people, it's been a very set trait. And a lot of times, arrogance will take you a long way because if you've got to be confident in yourself, a wee bit of arrogance can really, set you apart. But you need to back it up. But there's confusion all over the place. And there's another thing that I don't know if you guys noticed this. I couldn't obviously see this live in the flesh at the game. But having watched the game back, it appears the confusion's not only on the pitch, it's off the pitch. So as Kieran Tierney gets shouted over, and he starts writing, he's got a pad and he's talking to Tierney as if to say, here's what I want you to do. One of them, yes, knew it was coming out, love it. But he brings over Tierney and he looks as if he's trying to convey information to him. Trying to convey information to him as if to say, right, here's what I want you to do. Tierney starts to jog back on the pitch. And I think, is it Stevie Woods? Who's beside him? Somebody taps him in the sort of stomach and goes, no, he's coming off.
I think it is Woods.
And then Tierney comes off.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
oh my God, Tierney runs over. He holds the board up, right? He's number 63. Tierney comes over to come off, and Nancy comes out to give him information about what he's doing or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's as if he's not got a clue who he's bringing off or who he's bringing on.
What is that, Paddy? I mean, come on. Is that just a sign of a man that's flustered? Because surely you know who Kieran Tierney is. Surely you know that's the substitution you're going to make. But he brings him over, starts trying to convey information to him as if to tell him to go back out and do it. Well, forgetting he's more there.
We said it before, and I stand by what I said. To be the manager of a team like Celtic, you've got to be able to take that fucking pressure. You must be able to sit there and take that and understand that you must win every game. It doesn't matter who you're playing. I don't care if we're playing St Mirren. I don't care if we're playing Barcelona. We must go out there and we must perform. We are Glasgow Celtic. We do not lose 3 games in a trot like that. Mm-hmm. It's been humiliating, mate. I'm on an oil rig with people of all football teams and I'm getting hounded. And it's not nice because I have dished this out for so long, mate. I have sat here in my high chair and I've been giving it big licks, hounding every single one of them, mate. And now it's coming back and they're all slagging me and I'm getting messages constant and I don't like it. So listen, Wilfried Nancys, the board, everybody, get the finger out because Paddy's getting it.
Paddy's getting it tight. See him? Yeah, no, listen, let's try and make a wee bit of sense of it, right? So one of the big things as well, before we talk about the lack thereof action and where it all fell apart on the pitch, I understand. And listen, I'm sitting here, as I said before, trying to be balanced. I would love in the ideal world the time, but as the circumstances pan out, as I don't see the improvement. I know it's only a handful of games, it's 3 games. I'm not seeing any improvement. And then stuff like the Stephen McGowan article, and it kind of validates all the problems, right? That looks like a ticking time bomb, right? Because you can't empty a dressing room. Celtic can't get rid of players at the best of times that need to go. It's not going to happen. It's certainly going to happen in January. And it just puts the Mike's position far more precarious. But folk are getting off their head, by the way, about the way he talks in the post-match stuff. Now, before it's not about winning trophies, and folk are like, well, you better bloody well realise that it's about winning trophies. Another thing as well, Stephen, he turned around and after we're getting beat, he says, I think we started well. How the fuck can you start well when you lose a goal in, what was it, 84 seconds, right?
Yeah.
How the fuck can that be ever considered to be a good start? And then, of course, when he's talking about the other one, what is it? The ball, ping pong. I mean, this is early onset of Dogs and Caravans, Stephen.
Yeah, I mean, he's got his own way of communicating, and it's just gibberish. It's open his mouth and let his stomach rumble. There's no filter between what's happening in his brain before it actually comes out his mouth. That's where, if you look at, I think Paddy said earlier, if you looked at the 3 games and you could see certain things happening, and you go back to the Hearts game, okay? Early on, Dyson had a glorious chance. He was almost 1-on-1 through the keeper. Just claffed it past the post. Later on in the game, although we were behind, Arnie had the great diving header that bounced off the keeper a couple of inches to the other side, and that's in the back of the net. So people look at that and say, okay, the system he's playing, we're at least creating chances. Did we take those chances? No. But then again, that's wee tiny minutes in a game of 90 minutes. You're not going to convince anybody that this is going to get better the more time you give them. There's just no light at the end of the tunnel as we stand. As I say, we're still almost 3 weeks away from the opening of the transfer window. And the question for the board now is, okay, even if we keep him on, do we trust this guy to go and spend X amount of money to bring players in here that are going to be playing that system if he's going to stick to that? Again, it's not just about, between now and January the 1st, will we drop more points? Every chance.
Exactly.
Every chance.
And see, Stephen, what you're saying to follow on with that, you're talking about January and we're saying, do we trust him to bring in players? And we know nothing about him, but what we do know is that at Columbus Crew, he worked under a committee.
Yeah.
A committee style. So I'm sure it would have some level of input, but generally speaking, it was all data driven. And it was a committee identified players based on metrics he presented them with. But forget him. Here's the other one for you. The elephant in the room. Paul Tisdale.
Yeah.
Because it's more a case of, do we trust him in a moment of complete and utter desperation to get it right? Because we've been told that he's the guy that's going to be identifying. Now, if we wind the clock back and look at the hit rates or the lack thereof since Tisdale's been sniffing about the club, it doesn't fill you with confidence. Everything that Celtic had to do with this appointment and subsequently everything that we do in January needs to be 100% on point.
Yeah.
Celtic need damage control between that. And I get it. Listen, see in the league, 2 games in hand, right? You could win them and you could find yourself level on points. You could things can still be good for us, but do you trust those players under that manager to get in that position? And more importantly, do you trust those people, Paul Tisdale, to get the job done in January? So, what's your thoughts on that, Stephen? Paul Tisdale.
Well, go back to the summer, okay? Now, every manager probably since Martin O'Neill was in for his first run with the club, every manager has said that there are issues in terms of how long it takes Celtic to conduct transfer business. We either take weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks to do it, or we go in and the first offer is like insultingly low, right? Mm-hmm. So we got to the summer and, bearing in mind Mr. Desmond's statement when Brendan went, okay, everything was the manager's fault, everything was the Green Brigade's fault, everything was the fans' fault. There was absolutely nothing in his statement that said, other than one kind of half a sentence of said, there are things we can, as a board, can do better, right? I guarantee whether it's Brendan Rodgers, whether it's Martin O'Neill, whether it's, Wilfried, they're not the guys who go to other clubs and try and do these deals. That is on Michael Nicholson and Paul Tisdale to go. If I'm a manager and I say, I want this player, it's not me that goes to the club and says, right, I'm going to give you 10 million. Is there any chance of us doing business here? That's the board. And the board can't get away from that fact. They need to be a bit more proactive in terms of, we know the mistakes that we made in the summer. There was players that we went in for we didn't get because we wouldn't part with the cash. You would be, the players that we did get, Iheanacho brought in after the deadline because we didn't get anybody else. These are the things that you need to turn around and say, this is not on Nancy. You can't blame him for going and getting. He'll identify either, as you say, from his game of championship manager and say, right, these are the positions, never mind the players. At the moment, Celtic need a right-sided forward. We never replaced Nicholas Kuhn, right? And there's nobody in the squad that we have at the moment. We've got 6 left wingers. If you look at the
even
squad,
then it's desperate.
Yeah, 18 months, everybody was saying, Ballykeesh is this talented guy. It took us 18 months to sign him.
Wild.
I haven't seen anything out of him that says he should be pulling on a jersey, never mind getting a starting position. But we've got 6 players there. Unfortunately, the most talented, Jota, is out injured, won't even start training until after the new year. So as I say, this is where it comes back to, do we have the faith that between Wilfried identifying players and the board members actually going and do the business, will we strengthen this squad in January?
I mean, I don't know what even January looks like a far cry, Paddy. January looks like an absolute pipe dream, as I say. I keep saying it. I'm trying my best to sort of stay objective. People are asking directly, when would you can him? Well, here's one thing I will say, and you can give me your thoughts on it, Paddy. I do genuinely feel sorry for him. And I'll tell you why I feel sorry for him. Because he was brought into a club in disarray. I know you'll say and you'll point to the stability that Martin O'Neill brought us. I get it, right? But generally the backdrop, the off-the-field stuff, the disconnect between the fans and the board, the poor running of the club from a sort of footballing aspect of things that we've seen previously with Brendan Rodgers, how all that played out. And then the run of games he came in. And he came in to a bad squad. Let's not kid ourselves on. A bad squad, right? And I fully say and support the fact that Martin O'Neill could find a way to even get results out of that bad squad, as could Brendan Rodgers at points before it all went tits up, right? So that is on the manager. He needs to find a way, accentuate the positives, hide the negatives, just go on with it. But any manager that comes into a club should be afforded, or in an ideal world, they should be afforded time to bed in their ideas and, more importantly, get players in, right? But we are so fragile that's why I feel sorry for him, because look at the stretch of games that I've told you. I've just rhymed off 5 games before there's even the look or sight of a transfer window. And if you drop points in half of those games based on off the back of the other results there, then any other manager at any other point in any of the season, you get sacked, or at least you're up for it. He can't really affect anything in terms of the quality of the players. The only thing he can affect is try to get the best out of them. But as we say, I think he's just come into the wrong movie. He's in the wrong movie at the wrong time, mate. And I do feel sorry for him. But realistically, as I say, how long can we give him, Paddy? For me, as I say, if Celtic were to lose another 2 games during that stretch, that's the breaking point. I think that's when you've really got to have that genuine question, mate. For
me, mate, listen, Stephen hit the nail on the head as well. When you talk about it, do we trust this guy to go into a transfer window? The simple answer for me is not. Based on what I've seen so far, based on just the performances or lack thereof performances, mate, I don't see us going through the next 5 games and winning 3 of them. I really, really don't, mate. I've just lost total confidence in watching Celtic. I've just lost, I don't know, mate. I've been struggling a wee bit, mate. Honestly, it's just been tough to watch. It's embarrassing. The performances, that against St Mirren, mate. Listen, St Mirren were good. I'm not going to take it away from them. They played well. They highlighted their faults. They knew what they were doing. They knew the game that they had to play, and they played it well. But it was an embarrassing performance from Celtic, and you could highlight 9 players out of that squad, 10 players out of that squad, and say, yeah, you were garbage there, mate. You were absolute pish. Do you know what I mean? And it's just at that stage, mate, where
I just throw 2 words in there, Paddy? Effort and desire. That's it. Effort and desire. Out of the 2 teams yesterday, who epitomised those 2 words?
St Mirren, mate. St Mirren, 100%, and that's basically why the result went the way it did. But it's up to your manager to galvanise the squad. It's up to your captain to galvanise the squad. It's up to these players to push forward and understand they can get the better of a team like St Mirren, especially in a cup final. But look at it, mate. We were nowhere near it. And there was players there that, again, didn't look like they understood the job that they had to do, and it just looks absolutely lost. So going forward, mate, listen, I'll give them to the end of the Dundee United game, and if we do not beat Dundee United Wednesday night, I will be standing outside Celtic Park with the rest of the boys, screaming for him to lose his job. Because Steve, I know you say you feel sorry for the guy, but listen, I would bite your hand off for a job as a manager.
Listen, I'm not trying to be a soft touch, Paddy. I'm never that guy. You know, I'm very much, as you well know, I'll be somebody that'll cut you in half with my tongue and tell you, you know, shoot you down in flames. I do just think it is unfortunate. I can't get away from that. I think that we, as any Celtic fans, obviously we want to see anybody that's our manager, any player that pulls on the top as well, to succeed. And as I said, he's in the wrong movie. That's the only way I can put it. But I'm just trying to look here. I'm seeing a lot of discontent in the comments about there's somebody in. You'll need to see who it is, because there's so many comments. It's kind of hard to actually catch. And certainly for what I've seen down there, I've not seen anything that would suggest that it was bad. So unless you name who it is, we can. Paddy will do that whilst I'm talking. But no, I think that he's in the wrong movie, and the time's ticking down for him. Now, what I would say is that 2.5-year contract coming in for the MLS. I think we had to pay, maybe the word was a couple of £1 million for him to get him out his contract with the rest of his squad. See if it's doomsday situation, you have to get rid of him. Celtic shouldn't be worried about doing it. They really, really shouldn't, because God knows we haven't spent it on anything else. We talk about how much money we give away in corporate tax, right? So go and absolutely try and get that if you need to do it. Now, in terms of that, would then say, well, who would we bring in? So, Stephen, something that get brought out today again, and a lot of folk are saying it was chucking petrol on the already burning heap, was Martin Neil back on his seat in TalkSport. And he had a wee chat about his time at Celtic, and he basically turned around and said they would have taken the job. And he wasn't asked. He said, I was on a sort of day-to-day basis. I was told you could be here for 2 weeks, you could be here for 2 months. We don't know, but we're looking for somebody. But he then says, despite the way he presented about, I can't wait to get it, it's all over. He said he started to warm me up, and he said that he would have, if he was asked, stayed about, not just to the end of the season, but with an eye on it. And it wasn't because I'm in a cup final. It was just, I actually quite like this. This is going quite well. I sat here and I said that I didn't think Martin O'Neill long-term was the solution. And I still haven't really switched my view on that. I'll be totally honest with you, because I always felt by long term that meant at least to just the end of the season. And then my concern was, as I said, how do you sign players in January when you're not going to be there in the summer? However, if he turned around and says, I want to stay at the end of the season and then do our own contract into next season, then I would relook at it all and say, right, the football isn't great, but again, he doesn't have his own players, but at least we know he can be trusted to stabilise the ship, get us to January, and then guys that will be coming in that he wants and make it better. Talk to me about this Martin O'Neill revelation. Is this, what's going on here? Because if that is the case, is it negligence again from a board who did well, let's be honest, albeit it was on the phone book, to get in the right man at the right time. Short-sighted to not even go, mate, this is kind of going well. You fancy it?
Yeah, I think St. Martin, may he be forever blessed. Yeah, if Martin O'Neill wants that job, you let Martin O'Neill keep that job until Martin O'Neill says, I'm 70 odd years old. I don't want the pressure anymore. He gets the club. He's obviously had his time here. He knows what the pressures are from the Scottish media, from the fan base, everything. He gets that. He's done it. He's done his time. He's come back. The only thing he needs to worry about now is Police Scotland chasing him up for theft of a tracksuit. But you know, the thing is, as I say, if Martin O'Neill says, I am happy to stay in this job, you let Martin O'Neill keep that job until he's the one that turns around and says, no, it's, you know, I've got health problems, I've got stress problems, I've got something. That's it. You know, for me, that's a no-brainer. I do get the point, you know, at some point, yes, we are going to have to look at a manager to take us forward. But this is where, again, I go back to the board. The board that we have at the moment are not forward-thinking guys. They're good at running a business and accumulating money and saying, you know, look, we're going to have a business that we're never going to be in the position of other clubs where there's a chance that they're going to come and put a key in the door and lock this club and switch out the lights and walk away again, and then we'll need another Fergus. But in terms of the modern way of running a football club, there are far too many on our board currently that just have no idea of what it takes now to be a 21st century football club, and you know, everything that goes along with that. Yes, they can point to the things that they've done. You know, they delivered Barrowfield. Martin O'Neill said himself, you know, going back to his time, the facilities that they had, you know, absolutely no problem at all. You know, he's seen that. But again, it's what happens on the pitch. You know, how did we go from Bayern Munich to where we are now? I mean, you can't just say that's one scenario. You know, it's on the board, it's on the manager, you know, the managers that we've had, and it's on some of the players. As you've said, they seem to have lost that desire. So therefore, you know, it's an accumulation, and therefore we need, from top to bottom, a good clear out and a new idea of where we're going in the future.
Absolutely. I mean, complete and utter dinosaurs. They are. The board are long outdoing. Now, just to finish up, I don't want, because we've swirled around 50 minutes and we've not even spoke about that disaster of performance. But Paddy, just to finish up, mate, it is, listen, it's all completely self-penned with the board. It's a disaster story of their own writing. And hindsight's great, but I think when they get rid of Brendan Rodgers, I genuinely don't believe that they were actually doing any real level of looking at guys and trying to identify a new manager. I always get the feeling, and I still stick by it, that Wilfried Nancys was very much it's going to be in the summer type of manager. And maybe me coming back to Matt, you need time, maybe that would have been the ideal situation for a guy like him, rookie or not, coming in, full summer, full training camp, weeks and weeks and weeks of working and trying to make things happen. It might just work. But coming in mid-season, in a wobble, in a shit show, on and off the pitch, with a bad squad, you need somebody that's got the minerals and got the experience and that isn't stuck in their ways, that is an adapter. That's no him, right?
And bearing in mind the 3 games that he was starting with, Hearts at the top of the league, Roma, and your cup finals, your first 3 games.
Exactly. Now, as much Paddy as the board make an arse of everything here, just a simple straight answer on this one, yes or no. Will they have learned from the disaster that was the creeping of the COVID season? Because they appeared to learn from the disaster that was going this season with Brendan Rodgers and uncharacteristically acted, right? mutual consent, away you go. I think he was told, and it went, and it suited the narrative. Would Dermot Desmond, and the guy doesn't want to say that he's wrong about anything, this board don't want to say they're wrong about anything, would they have the guts to empty this guy before January?
I think yes. I think they have to. The pressure is on the board at the minute. I think if they can make somebody else a fall guy, then I think they will. And I think Wilfried Nancys could be that guy. Obviously, we spoke about it before, Steve, when we were talking about positions that people were in that could maybe be dispersed to kind of take the heat off the bigger guys like your Nicholsons and your Lawwells and stuff like that. And we says maybe Tisdale could be one of the guys. Now, listen, Wilfried Nancys has been brought in. He's had an absolute Snyder of a start, to say the least. I think the reason we've got fans like myself and fans like the ones in the chat here reacting as we are is because these games were massive. That game against Hearts was a proverbial 6-pointer at the top of the table to go to the top of the table. That was the one where we wanted to put Hearts back in the box and go, right, listen, lads, you've had your time now. We're at the top now. Back you go. And it didn't work out that way, mate. And that's what got me, I think, after it. Seeing all of the media everywhere and he's out with his tactics board like Stephen had there, and he's sitting and you seen the interviews and stuff, and I was gutted, mate. Absolutely gutted. Sitting there so embarrassed. And I couldn't even get my head around it. And I thought, right, we're going to Roma. Surely we'll get a couple of positives for that. I'm not expecting us to win it. I expect a few positives, and we didn't get that either. It was a laugh, mate. Honestly, it was brutal. If I didn't laugh, I'd have cried through it. And then up against St Mirren there, and you're expecting a performance. Right, the guy's had the team for a week now. He's doing okay. Let's see what they can do. Let's see if he's going to change the formation, if he's going to listen to everybody and try and do a little bit different. But he's went with the same thing and got the same results. Imagine that. And I just think that the board have to make him the fall guy, and I think they will. I think if the result doesn't go our way at Tannadice, mate, then he's got to go.
Absolutely. I, as I said, that that I've been one calling for time and trying to look at it objectively. An ideal world. We're not living in the ideal world. We're not living in the ideal world. We see Rangers again, not a very good team, but getting by Hibs today, calling herself back into a title race or something that resembles it. That's the question for us. I've said a million times, I don't doubt that Rangers and Hearts will drop points, but the biggest concern is how much can we not drop points? That's the biggest problem and the biggest worry that I've got. So yes, unfortunately, I am also a realist and I live in the real world. And as much as I have this idealistic world that everybody gets a fair crack at the whip, sometimes it can just go too far. And as I say, he just finds himself in the worst position where he's at such a precarious point of the season where there is no wiggle room. That is the difference. There is no wiggle room. See, if he came in January and he was having this wee run, it still wouldn't change the fact that we'd be raging about it, but you'd be like, right, you can actually fix stuff. Transfer windows open, get bodies in early. He can actually change it. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt to get those players in and change it. We don't have that. We're still staring at another, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, where there's nothing that you can do. And there's a lot of games on that point, and that's where it becomes potentially untenable for him. But we'll see how it pans out. Hopefully it does go that way. Again, I'm not turning around and saying outright sack him right now, even though I fully agree for those that are saying that. But if you look at the actual circumstances, right, if you were to, yes, it's based on results, but it's not actually the worst time to get rid of somebody. Super early. Columbus Crew, man, you still don't have a manager.
It would probably, in the eyes of the fans, it would probably be better if the board did actually hold their hands up and said, look, we identified this guy, we made the mistake because whether it was Paul Tisdale was the guy who was championing him, but you turn around and you say, yeah, we're going to turn around and say we made the mistake. It's as easy as that. We brought him in. We had this idea of how it would go. We couldn't have seen it. Therefore, that's it.
That's the one thing we want is decisive action and leadership. Now, the board still need to go, but they've lost, at this moment in time, they've lost more credibility with how long they dragged it out. And then, of course, the appointment on face value is looking like it's an absolute disaster story. So their credibility is already absolutely demolished here, right? They could claw back a wee bit off it by making an extremely hard decision because, listen, as much as there'll be fans like myself who says this is the ideal situation, see if they sacked him tonight, I would say 99.9% of fans out there would probably just go, right, good, that's fine, let's shelf that. Well done, news. And we talk about things that would maybe be an easy win for them. Folk are saying, Martin O'Neill back, of course, that would be the obvious one. Nicky Hyen, he's sitting there.
Kettlewell,
away you go, man.
that's the kind of type of manager they'll bring in. That you think they're going to go for Nicky Hyen? Do you know what I mean? You think they're going to go for these kind of guys?
I get it, but my point is what I'm saying is, as unlikely as it seems, there's a potential solution there, and it's not the worst time to do it. Super early.
A decisive decision is it builds a wee bit of the bridges back between the fans and the board. It's not going to do very much, but yes, a decisive decision. We had statement after statement after statement when Brendan went. We're now into the sound of silence. And that again is written everybody's knitting as well. You're very, very quick to come out and say this, that, and the next thing. Now it's all. I mean,
that's the thing. And again, we look at, and I know that it's always a bad barometer to measure against. You look at Rangers, and by and large, when they realised that they made an arse of it, they just went, we made an arse of it. And I know they've come out and have made themselves look like fools by saying, we appointed this guy, we got it wrong, so we got rid of him. Then again, we appointed this guy, we got it wrong, so we get rid of him. But, as much as they continually make a fool of themselves, they do make the decision, and they explain it and they hold their hands up and go, got that one wrong. Listen, don't want to go on too long. There's nearly 450s watching on YouTube, so love it. Absolutely love it. Make sure you're subscribing and hitting the like and all that stuff. Remember, it costs you nothing. Let's talk, if we can, just a wee bit then about the football, right? Because there was actually a game of football that's brought on all this here. I've just got it down here. I just want to talk about the goals that we lost. The first one, obviously, the header for the early corner. 80 odd seconds in the game, absolutely ridiculous. Everybody's all over the place. I feel that see a free kick or a corner at this moment in time, obviously it's only 3 games, but they feel as potent as a penalty kick for teams for me right now. And I don't know where to even start with this one, Paddy, because it's Hatate, who is small in stature, to say the least, up against a very powerful and strong big chap. And Scales, who's our defender, is standing on the edge of the box. And it's a free header, and you're already climbing a mountain. We turned around and says that if St Mirren scored, they would bank in, they'd make it harder. Absolutely not, by the way, because other than that, they just kept going at us. Celtic were that open, that desperate looking. As soon as that first one goes in, it's absolute nightmare stuff. And then, of course, look at the way that they score the goal. It's the same deal. Celtic are so high, so exposed. We were getting done by simple balls round the back of the channels, and they were getting through time and time again, Paddy.
Aye. Me and Stephen had a wee chat about this just before we come on as well. We're talking about the set pieces. It's something that Celtic concedes so much from set pieces. Doesn't matter who we're playing against. We just seem to have that lack of desire in our own box to get rid of the ball. To whether it's man marking, see we highlight obviously Hatate, tiny up against somebody about 2 foot bigger than him. Do you know what I mean? There's only going to be one winner in the air when the ball's getting whipped in, and it's just it's laughable, mate, for us to be conceding these goals because it's happening on a regular basis. And I've said it so many times as well, even in the opposition box when we've got set pieces and we've got corners. And we're whipping all these balls into the box. We average 9 corners a game, and we're whipping them into the box. How many times have we scored 3 corners? It's not a lot, and it's something that we should be highlighting. Hearts have got the highest percentage goals for set pieces this season, and that's basically why they're sitting where they are. If we could add that to our team, then we're in a hell of a lot better position, and we need to get the defending right for set pieces, mate, because at the minute there isn't anything there at all. It's just an absolute joke. And you spoke about the high line and stuff, mate. St Mirren just played to it. It was lump balls. It was balls in behind. It was like, right, on you go, just go in behind him and let him try and chase you. He'll either bring you down or you're through on goal. And the first 20 minutes, 25 minutes, mate, it was one of the games you'd be watching from behind your couch. It was terrible. We were getting absolutely battered.
We get the goal, obviously, and as Stephen pointed out, it's the one few decent bits of play. It's a good ball in, Hatate attacks it well. But let's not forget, see, just before we score that goal, St Mirren are through, and as Trusted is able to put the boy off. And we skirted that line a couple of times. Other than that, don't get me wrong, I think that when we scored the goal, we slightly settled a wee bit. We didn't look like you didn't go, right, here we go, this is a turning point, we're going to go and smash them. The biggest loss for me, and I just want to say, try to talk about the football here, Stephen, was it a right or wrong decision? When I was previewing the game, I had said that Iheanacho had to start, and Celtic had to put their best foot forward, the best attacking players forward, and try and get an early lead, go into the lead at half-time, 1-2-0 up. Yeah. And Iheanacho was worth the risk. Unfortunately, the hamstring's gone again. But what I will say is he had a good shot saved, and he looked like the only guy that could play football. For me, at that point, he looked like the only... You could see that despite his injuries and despite his fitness, he could see he could play at a good level. And he was taking command, and he was trying to direct the traffic from a striker's perspective. Here's where I want to be. That's where you should be. Huge loss. As soon as he goes off, Kenny comes on. No disrespect to him. It just, you knew something was turning. Yeah. You knew something was turning.
There was no out ball into that final third. As you say, as soon as he went off, that was it. Because in the whole time, you know, and again, going back to the start of the season, one of the big gripes that I've had is that when you've got an organised team that we play against, we struggle to get in behind them, right? Now, to even, you know, Nicholas last season, the one thing that I pointed out as quality player that he was, he's playing on the right, he's left-footed. As soon as he gets the ball, he's cutting in. He's cutting in because he wants to get a shot away.
Yep.
You know, 1 out of 10, he would maybe try and take a full back on and get to the line to get a ball in behind. We don't do that. You know, we struggle to break teams down and get in behind them. They set up, you know, and just are quite happy. The ball's getting passed backwards and forwards in front of them. We know where the ball is. We'll keep ourselves between the ball and the goal just to stop one of Calmac's cracking shots. It's, you know, again, it's going back to that schoolboy stuff. That is all spoken about on the training ground. And if you've got a guy like Martin who comes in and says, you know, this is how we can play around this, and you know, and we've all said it, the play under Martin in those 7 games wasn't great. No. But he found a way. He found a way to get the players into positions where they could score a goal and win games. Whereas Brendan before him and Wilfried now, you know, you can't see where a goal is coming from. In actual, yes, there was an out ball there. He was getting involved. How many times did Kenny actually touch the ball when he came on? And as you say, that's not necessarily a problem with Kenny if nobody plays a ball into his feet and gives them the service. Yeah. You know, that's it's all over the place.
It's desperate stuff. As we say, as we get the first half, Paddy, there's nothing really to take away from it. It's just continually tearing your hair out with the same ball, the same threat, some pressure. You know, there was one point after the goals, we kind of McGregor forces the issue and get a good save, but that's it. That's how desperate it was. No, we go into the second half, a couple of changes, right? Again, did it have a massive impact? Absolutely not. And then the second goal comes in. Kasper Schmeichel, mate, is getting a lot of dog shit thrown at him, and rightfully so. Like, I think Kasper Schmeichel has been a big game player for us at points, but since that injury, he's done. That ball, again, it's so easy, it's so lackluster defensively. The ball's just chipped in, pinged in. Nobody's there defensively to attack it. He's running out like a big clown.
Does he need to come for it?
I don't even know if he needs to come for it. He's probably got a better chance if he doesn't.
Stay on your line.
And again, Same deal. Ball goes into the box. Scales loses his man. It's his man this time. With the first goal, he's standing on the edge of the box and had to deal with it. This time it's his man. He loses him. And there you go. 2-1, you're down. And then again, pretty much right after it, same ball undoes us again. It's quick for their own box, deep, couple of passes, 1-2, round the flank. Guys through, squares it, decent thing waiting the goalkeeper. Probably gets a wee bit of hand, it kind of bounces under him. 3-1. At that point, it's done, mate.
Yeah.
It's absolutely done. I mean, where are you with goals 2 and 3, Paddy?
The second goal, mate, all he does is the Schmeichel star jump, doesn't he? What are you going to do here, mate? And for me, that's just... it's not goalkeeping, mate. You come off your line, you command your box, you take that. You jump up and take that. You say there, Steve, ever since his injury, he's been struggling. You go all the way back to the Aberdeen Cup final, when every single penalty was to the right hand side because they knew he couldn't dive that way. They knew that he had no chance of getting there because his shoulder was gubbed. It's still the case, mate. There's still a niggling injury there. There's something there because he just doesn't seem to have that desire anymore. He doesn't seem to have that's the Schmeichels that we expect. You've got to command your box. You've got to come out and be taking crosses like that. You've got to help your defenders out. Listen, you can say what you want about Scales. Yes, he was at fault. Yes, he should have been doing a little bit better. But for me, Casper's at fault for that goal. The third goal, probably Trusty should be doing a bit better.
The only time Schmeichel does anything well, in my opinion, that game is right at the depth when he has a right good save. Just to save it for being complete and utter embarrassment. You know, it's embarrassing as it is, but it saves it for being disastrous, a Chernobyl meltdown type.
Listen, he's got these saves in there. He's got these saves in his locker. Yeah. We know he has, but at the end of the day, mate, he's not doing the simple stuff. You do the simple stuff first, and that goes for all the players, not just Schmeichel's. You've got to get the simple stuff right before you try and do all of the other stuff. He's a good reactionary keeper, but coming for crosses and coming off his line and doing the simple stuff. How many times have we seen him actually pass a ball now as well? His passings just went right out the window. It's troubling.
Well, let's to finish up, guys. Let's just go through. We know that the squad quality is absolutely bereft. It's non-existent. We've spoke about Kasper Schmeichel. I think he's personally ran his race. He's done. Now, for me, if I was hard pushed and asked about performances or pass marks or whatever you want to put on it, I think that Tierney, despite the criticism we gave him, I thought was all right. I thought Iheanacho was the best player until such a time as he got injured. And one thing that really got on my tits, as they say, was I felt sorry for Cal McGregor. Now, again, Cal McGregor's come in for stick from us as well. But I watched it, because I watched it, I was at the game, right? But see, every single time that a St Mirren player was running through or pressing into your box or looking like he was going to get a shot off or do something, no matter where it was, on the left side of the park, centre of the park, right-hand side of the park, Cal McGregor was always that guy that was running alongside him and trying to put the foot in, right? Because he realised very quickly that everybody about him wasn't doing that. Wasn't challenging, wasn't hustling, wasn't bustling, wasn't trying to win the ball, wasn't trying to put in any level of fight. And by default, he tried to do everything to spread himself so thin that it ruined his game as well. But I'll give him pass marks for that. It's an absolute shambles. And we've not even spoken about the lack of sort of attacking options. I want to say it. Iheanacho, Taneki and Maeda. Stephen, where are you at with it? I'll be honest, I was fooled. I was fooled with Taneki early on.
Yeah.
There's nothing there, mate. He put out a wee post on his social media. Oh, really sorry, it's not what we want to do. Right, I'll disappear. I'll slide away to the African Cup of Nations. What about if he even gets a game there? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I said earlier when I mentioned Nicholas, I never played football at a level above amateur, and I cannot understand how a right-footed player is better served playing on the left-hand side. I'll never see it that way. I've coached youth football. I never, ever see it. my wide guys, I want to get, if you do the same thing every single time that you get the ball, you're easy to defend against. You need to keep a fullback guessing. If you're James Forrest, right, and this is the one thing that we've missed. If you're James Forrest, when you get that ball and you're up against a fullback, that fullback's thinking, he could try and get by me on the, just one touch bit to get round the back of me. He could cut in. Okay, he's not got the legs anymore, has James, but he'll try it. Or he'll play that wee 1-2 triangle pass. You keep the defender guessing. Tunecti, no, there's nothing there. He's got a wee bit of skill with the ball at his feet, but you put him on the right hand side, and it was like he went backwards. He was worse on the right hand side, being a right footed player, than he was on the left. Dyson, as much as I love Dyson has just been a shadow for the last 18 months. He'll run about for you, he'll still do the work.
Absolutely.
But as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, it is just now running about. His body language says, I don't want to be here. I wanted to be away in the summer. Possibly the board promised him that he would be away in the summer, but the magic or that figure that the board were looking for, the bid never materialised. So they said, no, you're going to stick with us here.
Yep.
As I say, I love my Maeda to bits. I think he had a fantastic season last season. And when he does go, it's his work rate that's going to be hardest to replace. Not his talent, but his work rate, because how many times in the game on Sunday, as I say, was he back trying to cover for defenders and winning the ball in our half? But he was just running about. That was it.
Mm-hmm. No, totally. That's the thing. It was Paddy, a man, incredibly disappointing. And yeah, again, not to do it, I told you so, because you've been very positive about him. But another guy that I think needs highlighted for absolute massive shortcomings, again, is Arne Engels. Again, the squad depth is so poor, it was like asking if you want it shot or stabbed, because Nygren couldn't possibly have been anywhere near that squad, right? He just simply couldn't. It would have been unacceptable if he started. Engels, just again, absolutely like Tunecki, flattering to deceive, points where you go, oh, that's brilliant, but it's just the consistency in there, and it's really worrying. I don't see how we can lift these guys up, mate, or this manager can lift these guys up for Wednesday, let alone the games to come after it.
Engels, mate, I thought he was one of the kind of main ones that struggled, knowing where he was. He was the one that kind of looked just out of sorts. Under Martin O'Neill, we've seen that kind of revitalised Arne Engels going in for tackles, showing a bit of passion, showing a bit of grit. That all seemed to disappear very, very quickly, and he reverted back to the Engels of old, the one that I got a lot of stick for smashing pretty much every single week. And like, yeah, Engels is a girl, mate. Listen, he backed out of challenges. It's as if he didn't want the ball, and when he did want it, he gave it away pretty quickly. He didn't look comfortable on the ball. He wasn't turning on the ball. I felt like he wasn't there, mate. I agree with you about Kelechi Iheanacho. I thought up until he went off, he was probably our best player. He was bringing the ball in, he was getting players involved, he was turning on the ball every chance that he got, he was putting bits of pressure on, and I feel like if he was able to last the full game, and maybe I got a little bit more out of it, but I just feel like Kenny came on and was an absolute passenger. As we have quite a lot of the players in there, mate. Tunecki, wow, where do you start with him?
I want to sort of try and wrap things up, because obviously, there's so much to digest and go through. But, kind of to both of you, I'll sort of stay with yourself at the moment, because we're on it, Paddy. But let's kind of have one eye on Wednesday, right? So we've got this game against Dundee United. Iheanacho's injured. Kenny is what Kenny will be. Balquisha, you even know he was a thing. He's away AFCON, as is Tunecki. So that means you're going to probably have to reintroduce Nygren and or McCowan or Forrest. You're maybe going to have to get him in for the start, right? But the big question is going to be, where are the goals coming from? That squad is thin. trying to get a tune out of them, or this manager trying to get a tune in them, looks completely like a pipe dream's not going to happen. But then what does that say about what we've got in the squad? Because I'll just chuck this one at you for a name it. Shin Yamada. Now again, based on nothing, because we've not seen him, right? Brendan Rodgers didn't fancy him. Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney didn't fancy him. And it appears that this guy doesn't either. Now, am I going to be flippant saying this? Shin Yamada must be absolutely fucking shite at football, right? Tell me why he's not even near a squad. I mean, seriously, like all jokes aside, can he genuinely be that bad?
I don't know. The same with Simpson Pusey as well. Why is he not getting a chance in a back three where that's kind of basically what he played down at City as well? I think you maybe see Shin Yamada on the bench. I think we might actually get to see him. He might get a wee rare outing, get some fresh air. I think that's only due to us having to do it because, like you say, Steve, we've got 2 players away to the African Nations Cup. We'll probably start with Maeda on the left. We'll probably start with James A. Forrest on the right, or Yang. Even as Yang still here, is he still going to be playing? Yes, and then you've got obviously Kenny being our pretty much only striker. Now, if Nancys going to play this 3-4-3 formation, we are going to need another striker in there. So that other striker has to be Shin Yamada because we pretty much don't have anybody else who can fulfil that role. We need like for like on the coming off the bench onto the pitch, Steve, and I don't even think we have a good enough side on the pitch, never mind the subs. When you look at our bench, it just fills you with fear because there's no way you're going to change a game when you look at that bench. There's nothing to come off. There's no players in there you go, yeah, he could come on and change a game. And you speak about guys like Negrin possibly coming back in, like McCowan coming back in, Bernardo even. Do you know what I mean? Bernardo against Thingway looked actually okay against Roma. When Bernardo came on, he was one of the players that you would say kind of vaguely got a pass mark against Roma. He looked to have that wee bit of desire, that wee bit of grit. He was getting forward a little bit. And then it just goes back to never been seen again. And I just don't understand. I don't think we know what our best 11 is at the minute. Wilfried Nancys certainly doesn't know what his best 11 is. So I don't know what team we're going to get, mate. Normally we could sit on here and we would stick out a prediction, but maybe be 1 or 2 halves. Do you know what I mean? All right, if I had to write down a team sheet right now, I reckon it'd be 5 or 6 half it. Do you know what I mean? Just for the simple fact that we've no idea what's going on at the club at the minute.
So, to final thought on this one for Wednesday, Stephen, as we said, who knows what we're going to get?
No. Between
injuries and absences and people away and just generalised weakness, you know, this manager, this game is, every game is huge for him, but this game is fucking another cup final. This is
100
really
times more pressure on Wednesday night now.
Yes.
If he'd won on Sunday, you know, I'm not saying it would have given him, a get out of jail free card, but you know, it would certainly have bought him a wee bit more time to say, right, okay, his first 2 games, bedding in. His third game, the cup final, he's managed to get us over the line and get us that cup. He failed to do that. So every team selection is now going to be microscopically, pored over. And why is he playing this player here, this, that, and the next thing? If he does the same thing time and time again, I mean, it's an old quote. If you do it time and time again and expect different results, it's if he sticks with the formation, if he sticks with the personnel, it's going to come down like a ton of bricks on him. And
do you think? To jump in. Do you think there's going to be? I know the options are non-existent.
Yeah.
Does it make it more insane for him to persist with his preferred formation with the lack of options that we've got?
Yeah,
and on that,
I would have said that. Yeah.
Do you see any? Do you, if you're a gambling man, do you genuinely think that he will realise I'm in deep shit? This ship is sinking. I'm basically throwing buckets of water out to keep this up. I need to just find a way to win this game, no matter what. Do you think it's in his character to turn around and say, do you know what? I'll just use what I've got in a different formation, try and get through it. And again, we're talking about it. The Simpson-Pusey one, that's a strange one because there's a guy who could play at the back, at a right-hand side comfortably, a back three, comfortably.
But then again, as you say, you know, the managers see these guys in training every day. Now, I don't know how, you know, how truthful this is, but I heard that there was things in the background in regards to training. He wasn't too happy coming up from Man City, and he was being made to play with the B team. I think there was, let me say, there was some words at that point, and he was basically punished. He was told, "Look, you do what we tell you up here. We want to see you in some live games, and you know, then we'll decide how we are going to best integrate you into the first team." As I say, I don't know if that's true. That certainly was a rumour.
Yeah.
But in regards to the manager, we talked about the French arrogance. I could see him if he'd come in. You mentioned it yourself, Steve. If he'd come in at the beginning of the summer and said, "Right, I'm going to have X amount of weeks of training with these guys to get my thoughts across and stuff like that," but he's not had that time. Therefore, he looks and says, "That guy's injured, that guy's injured, that guy's injured. They would all be starters in this team. How do I utilise those that I have available to me? Never mind who I want, because some of them, you know, are away to African nations, so they're injured. How can I best utilise the players who are available to me?" And if that, for a short couple of weeks, okay, I need to bite the bullet and I need to change the formation. I need us to be stronger defensively by utilising a back four. I need us to be a bit stronger in the midfield, so we need to change it about. I don't think Calmac in this formation, you're getting the best of him. He always, to me, seemed to be best utilised in that area between the back line and the midfield. You know, everything would come through him and he would dictate. This new formation, he's not quite as involved as the way he was. So, if I'm being honest, do I see the manager changing it? No, I think he will stick to his principles, and I think it might be the sword that he falls on. Because, you know, what's he got to lose? If the board do decide to sack him, he walks away with his big severance check.
Yeah, true.
No harm done.
And I think as well,
his reputation, but you know, money-wise,
again, mate, coming back to what I say is about if he were to be emptied, it's not actually the worst set of circumstances for it to happen, because, as you say, he loses nothing. He was considered to be hot shit in the MLS, so he probably walks back to his previous job unless they go and get a manager or some other job over there. And it'll always just be, well, you know, Celtic were a fucking basket case when I went over there type of thing, and you've always got that to fall back on. I totally understand that. Aye, there's a lot. We could have sat here and we've went to an hour and a half. There's been over 450s watching live. We really appreciate you sticking with us, and, you know, as I say, getting this wee bit of therapy out there. I'll just throw it out there really, really quick then. Quick fire before we finish. Dundee United away. In the comments, win or lose, what do you think? What do you think the score's going to be if you want to go that? What do you think? And more importantly, if it's anything other than a win, do you think that that's survivable, considering, yes, I know it'll only be 4 games, but considering the ramifications of what's happening? Paddy, up with yourself, mate, first off. Wednesday's looking like an absolute mountain, mate.
Yeah, it really does, mate. I seen in the comments earlier on somebody saying that we will concede 2 goals pretty much every game under Wilfried Nancys. Basically going by the statistics that he's been running by, and I agree with that. I've had a wee look back on it, and I think that Dundee United will score 2 goals. I think we'll score. It's just a matter of will we score more than 2. I very much doubt it. I think it's either going to be 2-1 or 2-2, which isn't like me. 420. What do you reckon, big guy? You're normally the one that slags me for my 4-0, saying I'm a shite bag if I don't go for a biggie. Let's hear what you've got, pal.
What about yourself, Stephen? Would you wish to hazard a guess at how you think this one's going to play out?
listen, I'm trying to be that faithful through and through guy, but I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. We'll lose goals from set pieces. We'll lose goals from being too far up the park or too far apart. I'm going to try and be optimistic. I'm going to say we'll get a draw, and I think it's going to be 1 each. I don't see us scoring a lot of goals. I would love it to come back on, after Wednesday night and say, where did that performance come from? That was fantastic compared to what we've seen. I really do. I will keep the fingers crossed. But me personally, I think it will be a real dire 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I kind of echo all those sentiments here. I personally think that it's going to be. I think it's going to be a draw. I think a draw at this moment in time looks the most likely outcome. And again, and I try to. It's hard to draw comparisons, but I look at when Dundee United played against Rangers, and I look at that and I think to myself, that's pretty much how I see that sort of game panning out. I just think that Dundee United aren't in great form, but that doesn't really matter when you're playing Celtic at this moment in time. But what we do know that they'll do is utilise the set piece opportunities, any balls into the box. They'll take using the long throws, they'll use the corners, and as I said earlier on, all those situations when you put anything into your box, it is as potent and as effective as having a penalty kick against Celtic.
Yeah.
And I think we'll be at 6s and 7s, and I can foresee a draw. I want to obviously see a win, and I'd love to see great football, but I am concerned, and I'll say that anything other than a win really, really, really starts to put him under intense pressure. Rangers won the night, one way or another, 3 points behind us. Pressure's on us. Just see if these guys can live up to it. So listen, thank you very much to every single people. I apologise that it wasn't the most positive of shows, but it is what it is. Misery brings folk together, and of course we'd always like to be sitting here and being as positive as we possibly can and talking about great football, but we find ourselves in strange times. A lot to unpack, as we say. There's the Martin O'Neill stuff, there's the general result and everything else in between, but the next few games between now and the end of this year are going to be absolutely massive. I just hope and pray that this manager has something about him, and that the rumours are just that they are just rumours, and that we see something a wee bit togetherness. So anyway, guys, thanks for joining me. I know it's super late, and I know that
just ask people, who knows? You said to people, listen, this was a negative one. We could be on here on Wednesday night with a positive podcast about a good result. Imagine it. See if we are. I want every single person that's in the chat and the live right now to join us back here if we beat Dundee United, and you'll see a different Steve-O, a different Paddy boy, a different Stephen.
Paddy, the ball's the ball.
The ball's the ball.
The ball's the ball. It doesn't matter.
Remember, the seagulls always follow the trawler, aye,
because the thing is sardines will be thrown.
I can't remember who that was.
But because he thinks sardines will be thrown into the sea. Yep. There we go. I get with focusing. I see there's a lot of people are unhappy and saying, and I understand this is the great balancing act. Yeah. I've been an advocate. I've been sort of saying, I don't want us to sack managers. I don't want us to do it. But see, sometimes you've just got to hold your hands up. And again, I will reiterate, the biggest thing that Celtic don't have is time. The biggest thing Wilfried Nancys doesn't have is time. He can't afford to drop points in another 2 or 3 games or stuff like that. It's quite simple mathematics for this man. And if he's going to survive, he needs to start winning games, starting with Wednesday. So anyway, listen, thank you very much to every single one of you for doing it. If you haven't done it already, hit the subscribe button. Remember, costs you nothing, absolutely nothing. You subscribe and it helps us out, supports the channel. Paddy boy, I'll let you sign this off as always, my friend.
Thanks very much for your continued support, guys, and hail.